All right, thank you for rejoining us after our first break. The first panel, I think, did a really great job of setting the stage for our future conversation today. What I want to do next is talk about what are our actions. This next presentation will be primarily focused on what PHMSA is planning to do. And I'll give you a little bit of an insight as to why this is intentionally designed that way. From workshops that we've had in the past, some of the feedback, we do try to listen, is that we really need to give the audience a sense of where are we going with our actions. What does PHMSA do related to public awareness? I've sat in some sessions where people say, well, PHMSA's, overseeing pipeline operators, but they're doing absolutely nothing related to public awareness. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And I think it would be an excellent idea for us to talk about some of the things that we're doing currently and some of the things that we will be doing moving forward related to public awareness, because it's very much related to some of the comments we talked about at the last Q&A session that we heard emerge from the audience. And you'll find some of those same comments and concerns and thoughts as I speak moving forward. So as Alan and both Mr. John Drake talked about earlier in their remarks, they talked a lot about the ever-changing energy environment we live in. Our demand increases, our need for more energy really highlights some of the efforts and activities that are taking place across the country. But where we have change, there's always challenges that we have to look at as well. While we've made a lot of progress with public awareness, we recognize that there's a lot more that still needs to happen, and some of the ideas came out of the last Q&A session we just had. But when we look at the changing landscape of pipelines and energy, we also understand that we have to look at aging infrastructure. We have to factor in the increased demand for energy. We have to look at how pipeline incidents and accidents influence what we do next, what we can do next, and what we learn so that we can improve what we do next. We also understand that technology and innovation impacts how we see our efforts individually and collectively, and how we communicate with each other from a technology standpoint or more of a internet base. There's a lot depending on the demographics and different targeted audiences. Communicating the way we communicated 20 years ago has evolved. And so we have to keep pace with where people are reaching out to get information and how they're communicating with each other. And absolutely, stakeholder needs and interests are evolving as a result of many of the things I just talked about. So there's two constants to me as it pertains to our discussion that we can't get away from. Change is one of them. I always tell my kids the only thing that's constant is change. And the second is our collective focus on pipeline safety and making improvements. So as I share with you some of the specific focused actions that PHMSA will be taking, keep those things in mind, that our actions and efforts are a result of hearing from stakeholders, recognizing some of these complexities that we have to address moving forward. And just know that what I'm sharing is a snapshot, and there's more ideas I hope that will come out of our discussions that we can go back. There's already a few things I've heard that are really great ideas that we want to take back and incorporate into some of the things that we're doing. Someone made a phenomenal point, someone who made a comment at the end of the last session, and they talked about different perspectives. I think, let me see, what was specifically said related to the public, and that different stakeholders look at things and they look for opportunities from different perspectives. And I said, aha, this is good, because that's a very key and important point that I wanted to re-emphasize here. You can look at the exact same situation, whether it's pipeline safety, public awareness, you name it, and depending on where you are standing, where your place of experience is from, you can have a totally different perspective. And that's really the case with public awareness. Public awareness is a little bit softer than some of the other areas we work with. Generally, when it comes to pipeline safety, it's not a piece of steel, it's not cathodic protection. It's really a softer component when you're looking at behavioral change and communicating and making sure people have the right information when they need it. So it's very important to keep in mind that different perspectives are going to play a big part. So as we move forward, I'll start with myself, we have to challenge ourselves. I have to challenge myself to look at things differently. There's how we've always done public awareness. It may have worked with the methods, communication, techniques and methods that we've employed, but things have changed. So we have to look at it. I have to look at things differently, be open-minded, more objective, consider different perspectives as we move forward, because we still have an ongoing responsibility to protect people and the environment at the core of what we're doing. So just keep in mind that perspectives really are going to transform and shape what we do. And it is okay for me to start out maybe at the back end of the elephant and work my way to a different place. And I have to keep challenging myself to do that. So what we're doing, we have a SWOT analysis report. We have a lot of information from inspections and other informed efforts. It's time for more action. This is where the rubber really meets the road. PHMSA is committing valuable resources to really drive our PHMSA 2021 strategy and to really push for safety, trust, and innovation in what we're doing. So today I'm going to focus on 3 areas in which we're going to do that. First, enhancing stakeholder relationships and partnerships. Second, educating and informing the public. And third, expanding transparency. So as I talk about some of the tables you'll see in just a moment, you'll see some alignment from the previous discussion panel to what I'm going to display here. But you'll see an area where I'll highlight our PHMSA action. You'll see the relevant stakeholder group that it is most likely to immediately impact. And then you'll see the connection between those 9 SWOT findings that we strategically wanted to make sure we addressed each and every one of them in some fashion as we move forward. And then you'll see general timelines. When do we think we're going to either start or wrap up some of those efforts? So if you see one of the items marked short term, it's generally a 3 to 6 month window that we're working to achieve those actions. Same with midterms, 6 to 12 months, about within a year from now. And then some things that we do just to manage expectations just takes time. There's a lot of intricacy, complexity, individuals who will need to get input from, including many of you, and that would, some of those things need to happen where we can give opportunity for input and modifications. So the first area I talked about, enhancing stakeholder relationships. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly talk about each one of these in the interest of time, but those that have a red asterisk next to them, I will either expand on it right now in my presentation, or we already have a presentation planned to give you more details. So if you don't see me expand on one of those, stay tuned, we will cover it in more detail. So first, restructuring our Community Assistance and Technical Services program. I'm not going to steal Karen's thunder, who's coming up next, but I will say we've changed the way that program operates as far as the reporting structure, first and foremost. In the past, in the recent past, we have 10 total CATS managers. Those 10 were broken up by 2 CATS managers reporting to each one of our 5 regions. So each region would have 2 CATS managers. And what we found is we're missing some opportunities to really be consistent and strategic about how we leverage our outreach and our community assistance resources. So earlier this year, we realigned, and now all 10 of the CATS managers report back through our headquarter program development shop. So they now report to me in program development. You will see this you will see this change being evident through some of our ongoing and future outreach efforts as we're really looking to amplify our role in the communities and also with our damage prevention and other pipeline safety efforts moving forward. So Karen will talk more about the mission, some of the things that's changing and evolving with that. Secondly, we've already released our public awareness SWOT analysis. We're conducting the workshop today. Those were already on our list. So we didn't just start looking at what actions we take for today. We've already been modeling and working on many of these initiatives, or some of these initiatives. Also, someone mentioned also, I heard you when you said, how do we create opportunities for the public and other stakeholders, representatives to be involved up front at the beginning of the process? We have an opportunity for that. We are looking for ideas. I will talk about it more in a moment, but this is another area where we recognize it can't be a regulator, operator, or just the key stakeholder group. It really needs to be a more expansive, focused effort with more representative feedback in that process. And then we may actually issue an advisory bulletin later to clarify some of the things in our existing requirements. We can't issue an advisory bulletin to talk about things that will be new outside of what operators are currently expected to comply to, but we can, since we've done a lot of work over the past 5 years to refresh some things and issue some reminders on some of the areas where we really believe we need to emphasize. So to highlight, so I think there was an asterisk next to the fourth item, that pipeline safety awareness group. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that now. What we would like to do is form a long-standing, the previous working group that developed that SWOT report was a finite group that sunsetted. What we'd like to do moving forward, and this was one of the discussion points that came from that working group, is to form a long-standing awareness group. We can call it whatever we need. I'm not hung up on the Pipeline Safety Awareness Group title, but the actual work will still be the core work of that group. To form this group to collaborate and focus on our engaging with our stakeholders, public awareness, looking at messaging. We talked a lot about being more compelling about reaching out, and also looking at how do we be more strategic with joint national outreach. Also, that group could help to identify where do we want to focus first. So that group we're proposing to use is to say, here's our greatest threats. This is where we need to focus our efforts. So we probably won't initially start off tackling every issue, but we'll need to put some sort of a risk-based approach to understanding what makes sense to really move the needle on first. And then sharing best practice and other lessons learned as we develop some of the new things that will emerge from that effort. And then hopefully we will walk away to Kesley's Tweed's question. I told you I'd get back to it. What's PHMSA's role with some of the messaging and the joint national outreach efforts? We will be working as a part of this group to help develop or at least weigh in on some of the content for future strategic communications work that we have, developing more toolkits similar to what CGA currently has, Common Ground Alliance currently has with the 811 campaign, but looking at other relevant toolkits that all collective stakeholders could benefit from and utilize. Also, we want to make sure that we give an opportunity for stakeholders to actively participate and share ideas. I don't currently have a list of who will participate, and that's good news, because I wanted to introduce this idea here at the workshop and get feedback and give an opportunity for you all and others even outside of the workshop today to bring forth ideas on how this could be formulated, what the representation could be, and make sure that we factor in the interest and needs of those who are going to be involved and beyond. Make sure we have good representation. But here's the caveat for me and for PHMSA, and hopefully I'm sure many of you can relate. What we don't have a lot of is time, and I know many of us are pulled in many different directions. So this is going to be a working, and I stress working group, a roll up your sleeves and contribute sort of a group. So as you're considering opportunities and ideas for who and how best to come forth, if you're interested or know of others who may be, just know that it's all hands on deck, because we really want to move the needle on some of this work in a short amount of time. So we have deadlines. We want to, as much as possible, stay to those, but we're looking for folks who really want to, who are passionate about some of these things and really want to make a difference. Okay, so continuing with the enhancing stakeholder relationships, we also, and I'm not going to steal Artie Buff's thunder, this will be one he'll expand on, but we certainly want to initiate the model that was started in Georgia with the Pipeline Emergency Response Initiative in other states. Right now we have 3 that we're targeting. And Artie will hopefully give us a little bit more insight as to the current state and an update on what we're doing in those 3 states and beyond. But we're really looking to expand what we're doing from Georgia, basically, across the country. And each year we'd like to grow that program even more. But this was one of the great examples of the comment I heard earlier about how do we get emergency responders trained with worthwhile scenarios. This is an opportunity for collective stakeholders to get together. PHMSA, we really help to facilitate bringing those stakeholders together. Pipeline operators, training directors, state emergency safety personnel, emergency responders, et cetera, so that we can move them in a direction where they're talking about what their gaps, needs are, what information they would best like to see on a state level. So more is to come on that. And then again, we've talked about API RP 1162. I know that Karen Simon will speak later and share more about what's coming up with 1162, and I certainly don't want to steal her thunder. We're all waiting to hear. But I certainly want to say that PHMSA is here to support in whatever way we need to with any revisions or just the conversation around where there are opportunities with that. So we're going to engage based on API's timeline of when their committees will meet and put together their plans, but we will certainly be involved. Our hope is that at the end of whatever exercise that takes place with the next edition of 1162 or revisions to the existing ones, that we will look to incorporate those if we have some, agreement and we're comfortable with the direction it's going. So our goal is to make sure we have folks, again, who can roll up their sleeves, provide the input that even API needs with that effort so that they'll know exactly where we stand, PHMSA stands, so that they can move forward with publishing their work. Also, we plan on looking at our requirements and our regulations as our federal regulations, 192, 195. I'll talk a little bit more about it in just a moment. But generally speaking, it's time. From all the collective efforts, and I talked about it earlier, there's opportunity for improvement and clarification and gaps that need to be addressed. And this is one of those where you see it's a long-term effort because the rulemaking process, there are required steps we must go through and we can't circumvent that we'll need to make sure we allot time for. But there's other things we can do. Don't be discouraged by me saying that. There's many other things that we can do to still advance pipeline safety as we're going through some of those channels. Also, we're actually reaching out with other partnerships such as the National Conference of State Legislators. We're reaching out because as we look at influencing behavioral change and we're looking at making improvements to damage prevention laws, removing exemptions from the one-call requirements, we're looking to reach out to educate and make sure our state legislators are more informed about some of our issues and challenges so that they can best support pipeline safety as well. So going back to the conversation around federal regulations, I knew I was going to get the question, what are you thinking about changing with the regulations, or what's on your hot button list, or what are some of the things you've been thinking about? Well, definitely we know that we need to be able to delineate between what's required and what's optional as it pertains to our requirements. 1162 certainly gives operators recommended practices and guidance, but when it's time to go out and evaluate effectiveness and look at programs, we need to be clear about what we're requiring. Operators should be clear as they're developing and implementing programs on what's required and what's optional. So we need to do some more work to help delineate that. We also think that operator-specific requirements could use some clarification. There's been a lot of conversation about unique attributes, Karen Gentili highlighted earlier that there were some assets not covered under public awareness programs. We've talked a bit about when is a collaborative or a joint message, national message warranted versus providing operator-specific information. We need to put some focus around that effort, and we'll look to bring forth recommendations to our leadership on what that could look like, and get, of course, some external input as we evolve some of those plans. We talked about program effectiveness as being one of the more challenging areas from our inspections. More work is to be done. Looking at metrics, how do we measure some of the key aspects of behavioral change from a pipeline operator standpoint, but also collectively as an industry with all of the collective outreach efforts that are taking place. Also, we'll look at baseline versus supplemental requirements. If we move to a model where there are some general messages that we have in common, then we'll also need to take a look at what's left, what should still remain as a part of a baseline operator program, and what should be supplemental, and what should roll out to more of a national joint effort. Also, one of our findings talked about LDC operators have unique challenges with their customers and their messages, and potentially desensitizing them with too much information. We need to go back and take a closer look at that. What makes sense, getting those representatives and stakeholders involved in the discussion to find out what makes sense. And then there are other gaps that we talked about previously with pipelines. Is it an active line idle? Is it a line reversal? Is there a conversion work going on? When and how should we be communicating when those things happen? Really, it's about managing change, communicating risk from those changes, and making sure we identify the stakeholders who may be impacted, and at what frequency would that need to take place. And of course, what content should we be looking to share through our communications. Next, I'll move into that second group, educating and informing stakeholders. One of the things we're already doing, and it will continue to be an ongoing part of our efforts at PHMSA, we have moved towards hosting rulemaking webinars during our rulemaking comment periods to really help to educate the public and to educate other stakeholders who may want to issue comments or understand more about potential rules, giving them that opportunity to ask questions to make sure they understand what it is we're proposing in our rulemaking efforts. So we have done several of those, and we will continue to do those and make those open to the public and other stakeholders as needed. We're also amplifying our damage prevention and risk-based outreach. I'll talk more about that, but this is where the CATs will play a very instrumental role moving forward with our efforts. And I think that was a repeat with the National Council of State Legislators. I was doing that pretty late last night, so I think I might have missed that one. But moving to amplifying damage prevention risk-based outreach strategies, so that's a very heavy loaded word. But basically what I'm really trying to say with that is we really need to take a risk-based approach to how we go about our outreach efforts. There's 50 states plus Puerto Rico, and there's a lot of dynamic things taking place around the country. So we have to be, and we have a limited amount of resources and staff. So we really have to be strategic about where should we be focused. So my staff last year around this time did a phenomenal job of looking at some of our damage prevention risks, threats, and other considerations. And they're listed here, and I'm not going to go through each one of them. But we took a look at some of those activities, states that don't have damage prevention enforcement, those who have it but aren't using it, et cetera, looking at damages per ticket, for example. And we rolled all those factors up, and we created this internal model we use to rank our top 15 outreach states. Where should we be focusing our efforts? Did I skip one? Nope. Let me go to this next slide first. Here we go. So what we have here is we took a look at those states, and we looked at the threats and risks, and these are the states that really emerged from our analysis work. It's not to say that all states aren't important, but we certainly recognize that there are challenges that we really need to target specifically in these states, and where we have opportunities to do more expanded outreach in the other states, we're happy to do so. But these are certainly ones we want to make sure that we don't lose sight of until we really help to drive down some of the challenges we're seeing in those states. Then we broke those states up by regions. So the Western region has 5 states, Southwest 3, et cetera. How does this help us at PHMSA? How this may help you if you're connected or involved with damage prevention, outreach, or just have an interest? This may be areas where you may want to focus, looking at other factors that are important to you and even geographical areas, but it's certainly a point of consideration. But what we do is we can now have our CATS managers focus on those states. We can be strategic about how we target exemptions, how we work with those states who may have enforcement challenges, because we have a quick landscape of where our focus should be. Now, what we do with that is once we created this model, we've really been implementing it this year with many of our outreach efforts. But what we came up with are some key targeted times of the year where we know we want to really push out and amplify our outreach efforts. Some of these we're a little bit more active with than others because it's a newer model, but we call it our outreach impact activities. Next year, we're going to target some of these same times of the year and maybe even expand on some other activities that we learn about. But certainly in March, around spring, agricultural safety is one of the key areas we focus. We want to put some targeted focus. So we go back to that top 15 state list, and guess where we're focusing with our intentional, deliberate outreach impact, those top 15 states. Same for Safe Digging Month in April, National Safety Month, which is the National Safety Council's spearheaded campaign. We're piggybacking on that. 811 Day, of course, and many other examples of outreach opportunities. Just as a snapshot of some of the things we've done over the past, I would say, year or so, we've been working with youth through our 811 poster and video contest. Maybe on one of the breaks we can actually play the video. We'll try to do that. This is the first year we actually spearheaded the high school student. We're trying to piggyback with innovation, STEM programs, but also raise the awareness with high school students because they're the ones who are most likely the fastest to become construction, engineering, professionals in industry and other vocational careers who would want to be informed. So we're reaching out to high school students, but we're also reaching out at the middle school and elementary level as well. We're getting out and looking at other transportation modes where the general public generally congregate. We all have to be somewhere at some time, and it makes good sense for PHMSA under the Department of Transportation to target transportation. So in airports, we're starting to do more communication. Light rails, like the one in the top left corner we did in Denver. The Metro Transit train transportation, like we did with the station domination last year in DC for our 811 theme. Also, we have an example of our poster contest. We're also moving towards billboards in different areas, and we've seen instances of this. But this year, for 811 Day, from August 1st through roughly the end of August, but there's a few different timelines. But during that span, in all 15 of the states that I just highlighted, we will have some sort of billboard messaging campaign in all 15 states. We're targeting high Latino and Hispanic density populations. We've done some really targeted work to find out where those pockets are so that we can actually communicate in English and in Spanish in many locations where we have those high densities. And this is just a snapshot. It is not a holistic account for our efforts, but it is just a snapshot. And then this is what I'm really excited about, and I'm going to put him on the spot, even though he's not expecting this. But I want to recognize we have a summer intern who's from college, who's joined us for the summer. His name is Markel Gale, and he's a graphic design student at Frostburg University, and he joined us probably about 4 weeks ago. And when he got here, we had a whole list of graphic design work and different creative things we wanted him to do. He actually created this logo that you see in front of us. And this is a new campaign that we really want to push and hopefully get more support behind, and it's our Each One Outreach to One campaign. What we've talked about, and I've talked to other stakeholders about it, there are people in our everyday lives who know absolutely nothing about pipelines still. Can everybody think of maybe somebody in your family, your community, your neighbor who knows absolutely nothing about pipelines or 811 or what those little markers mean when they paint out in front of your yard or stick the markers? I can. And so what we thought about, as we continue to push our collective pipeline safety efforts, we really need to take advantage of the opportunities to better reach out in our communities. So that's really the concept behind Each One Outreach to One. If everybody who knew about pipelines and pipeline safety and affiliated with them in some capacity would just share their just basic perspectives with just one person in their families, communities, this would continue to spread in addition to many other activities we have. So the individual outreach makes a difference. It helps to do it one person at a time. We can make a huge impact in our communities. It reminds me of the movie. Did anybody ever see Pay It Forward? And I can't remember what grade. I think he was maybe 12 years old. There was a young boy. He was about 12 years old. One of his teachers challenged him to make a difference. Do one thing to make a difference. And he started this Pay It Forward campaign where he would help 3 people. And the only thing he wanted in return was for those individuals to help 3 more people. It's a similar sort of a concept here. And over time, it was like an international recognized effort that an elementary student started. So we have some opportunities as well. All right, so next, I'll talk a little bit more about educating and informing stakeholders. We talked about, to Kesley's point, coming up with national messaging, where this first item helps to do that. We want to develop a strategic communications toolkit, looking at PIPA, promoting PIPA. PIPA hasn't gone away. We're going to repackage how we look at it, what we do with it, and be a little bit more strategic with it as a part of a larger umbrella. So we at PHMSA we're contracting for services with a marketing and advertisement firm to help us with some of our strategic communications as we speak. So this summer we will have them hopefully joining us in our future efforts working with this new working group that we're proposing to stand up. We also want to institutionalize safe digging practices in our construction professional community through their training, because excavators are generally in different states, different state laws, different requirements. We believe we have an opportunity working with the National Center for Construction, Education, and Research to really infuse some more education and information into their existing curriculums. So Danielle Dixon will share a little bit more about how we could look to partner with them in the future. And also I mentioned about our implementing our excavator enforcement rule, and we're moving forward with those efforts, and we'll be posting information on which states are adequate and inadequate to our pipeline, and as we have enforcement cases that come forth, we will be putting information out about those as well. I'm not going to belabor the conversation about what we're doing with our strategic communications. I just want to emphasize that we really, we hear everyone when we've gotten comments about, hey, what are we doing nationally? Is PHMSA going to take the lead? People are more likely to want to use those tools if it's a collective effort and PHMSA's, involved with the process. So we're happy to do so. We want to help create new toolkits, get input and feedback on those products before they're finalized and rolled out, with the hopes that we can collectively take advantage of those. So more work on that. And next I'll talk about expanding transparency. So of course we're always making updates to our PHMSA website based on feedback we're getting from different places. Actually, Karen Lynch, she's not going to talk about it today, but for pipeline safety, she's actually our coordinator for all of our externally faced website content. So it's very complementary to what we do in program development. We work a lot with communications, and so that's one of the umbrellas of what we do. We also released an enhanced NPMS, National Pipeline Mapping System, web interface for emergency responders, regulators, those who use the password-protected version today. I'll talk just briefly about that. We also are planning to release an iPhone app, and we're working on a public viewer component of NPMS. So there's two parts of NPMS. One that's protected for those with specific rights, that's the PHMSA version, and then there's one for the general public who doesn't, and it does not require a password. We've gotten a lot of complaints in the past that our previous application was clunky, hard to use, not user-friendly, slow, etc. Well, we have been listening, and we're working to update some of our tools that are available. As I mentioned, our PHMSA Plus interface, it has more of a Google-like look and feel to it. If you haven't used it yet and you have password-protected credentials, take a look at it. Give us some feedback. Let us know what's working, or if there's some areas we really need to refine. Again, I mentioned it was user-friendly. Now you have the ability to view some data and incidents and accidents in a more tabular fashion. You can click on a pipeline and highlight you want incident and accident data, and you can actually see what accidents have happened with that pipeline asset. We're starting to introduce pipeline history data. So we're starting to have some historical information that's available dating back from 2010 that will be available. Actually, the history began in 2012. But we're looking at some of the previous data and building on that as we move forward. And it's a little bit more powerful so that we can sustain queries post-accidents and incidents and not have our system crash. But again, as I mentioned, in the future, we're actually currently working on the public viewer component of it right now. Hopefully by the end of this year, we can roll that out as well. So that concludes the summary of some of the things that PHMSA is doing. Throughout our agency, there's quite a bit of work going on with SMS, which we'll certainly try to align with our internal and external efforts there. But there's a lot of things that are going on at PHMSA. But we recognize there's also quite a few things that are going on with other stakeholders. So the question that I want to leave with you is, what actions will you take? We have the SWOT report. As I mentioned earlier, take a look at it. Figure out what's of interest to you, what's relevant, and try to come up with, if you haven't already, a few things that you could do to make a difference with public awareness and advancing our collective efforts. If you want to share those or share any comments about the SWOT report itself, we're happy to take those comments either today, or you can certainly provide those back on our docket for comment. We're happy to take those. Or if you want to add any comments about our NPMS PHMSA viewer I just mentioned, we appreciate any feedback as well. Now, for the industry, I want to make sure that we're not just up here talking about what we want to do. We want to push the envelope a little bit more. And I want to challenge the industry, who we oversee naturally, to listen to the stakeholders we heard today, to involve the public more in efforts. Up front, as I heard today, on the front end, certainly on the back end, there's an opportunity. Share your best practices with each other as we look to make changes to 1162. And when you're looking at the SWOT report and you're thinking about potential changes, think about it. I got to go back. Excuse me if you want to look away while I try not to damage your eyesight. But I want to go back to one slide that I really think is a challenge for all of us. If I can get back to it. This one. As you're looking at what you would do next with your organization, with your collective recommended practice efforts, think about it from different perspectives. And those who what you're going to do will affect. And then lastly, I won't go back to the slide for obvious reasons, but I'm also wanting to make a call out to our one-call centers. And we'll do more work around this too. But it's time for us to be able to understand what behavioral change could look like. And one example could be one call center sharing their ticket volume data. If we're going out and we're ramping up, as many of us are about to do with 811 Day, it would be very helpful to understand the next month if there was an increase in ticket volume as a result of us spreading the word about calling 811 before you dig on a state level and being able to aggregate it. That helps us to understand if our individual and collective outreach efforts are resonating with the people that we're trying to reach. That can only happen if we're willing to be transparent and share basic information on a state level to help advance our efforts in doing so. I believe that is all I have for my presentation. So thank you very much, and I look forward to more dialogue around some of the ideas and things we have going on. And we'll talk more, and I'm happy to answer questions during the Q&A panel. Thank you. So next up, I would like to introduce Ms. Karen Lynch, who is our National Community Assistance and Technical Services Manager, Coordinator. She oversees our CATS program, works quite a bit with them across our regions, and many other very key areas. She's also our Technical Assistant Grant Program Manager, and she works with a lot of our communication. So I'd like to welcome Karen Lynch up to talk about our CATS program.
Good morning. Good morning. And Christy, thank you so much for that introduction. Again, my name is Karen Lynch. I am the National Community Assistance and Technical Services Coordinator. And for the individuals that may not be very familiar with this program, we do, in a sense, try to advance pipeline safety through communicating in education and outreach with all of our stakeholders. The Community Assistance and Technical Services Program is commonly referred to as the CATS program. Many of you have worked with our CATS managers hand in hand in the field all throughout the United States. So for the majority of my presentation, I will refer to the program as the CATS program or the CATS managers, and you'll continue to hear those terms all throughout today. At any rate, I'm really excited to be here today. Public awareness is the cornerstone of pipeline safety. It's critical, it's vital, but more importantly, it's important that we're continuing to communicate with all of our stakeholders as it relates to public awareness. I'm also excited because we have the vast majority of our CATS managers here today, so I get an opportunity to introduce them to you all. The CATS managers, we also call them Team Awesome because they are the most dedicated and committed public servants that I've had the pleasure of working with, and I believe that Christy and the rest of the folks at PHMSA can attest to that as well. So our Deputy Administrator gave a presentation and provided some context on the future of PHMSA and PHMSA 2021. So earlier this year in February, the CATS program was realigned within the headquarters office under the Program Development Division. And the primary impetus for this is that stakeholder engagement and outreach is a key strategic goal and objective of PHMSA. So we realigned this program because we needed to have more consistency, more clarity, more transparency as it relates to stakeholder engagement. So by bringing the CATS managers under the Program Development Division, it's given us an opportunity to expand our reach. It's given us an opportunity to ensure that our CATS managers are hand in hand with all of our stakeholders in the field, and they are outstanding, and they just do a great job. The mission of the CATS program did not change very much, although we changed our vision and mission within the Program Development Division. It's the same. And their core responsibilities really haven't changed that much, except that we're trying to expand our reach. So the mission of the CATS program is still to advance public safety, environmental protection, and pipeline reliability by facilitating clear communications with all of our pipeline stakeholders, and that includes the public as well, who's by far one of our most important stakeholders. So within the Program Development Division, what we've done is we've looked at PHMSA 2021, and we want to make sure that everything that we do within the Program Development Division, including the CATS program, is aligned with the mission and focus of PHMSA. So our new vision is to blaze new trails in pipeline safety and stakeholder engagement beyond conventional limits. And what we mean by this is we want to be more proactive. We want to get ahead of some of the pipeline safety concerns that we continue to hear. Our mission is really to advance PHMSA's mission, and we want to do this by proactively engaging with all stakeholders to reduce the risk of pipeline failures and influence change through program and policy development. And Christy talked about a lot of the changes that we have in place, a lot of the initiatives that we have in place, but what we really want to communicate is that PHMSA's mission is key. It's important with everything that we do within the Program Development Division and the CATS program as well. So within the CATS program, what we've done is, again, we've tried to align everything that we do within the Program Development Division as well as the CATS program with the strategic goals and objectives of the agency. So what I've outlined here are just a few buckets of focus areas that we have for the CATS program. But more importantly, our CATS managers serve as the trusted and unified voice of pipeline safety. So within the buckets of their responsibilities, we have stakeholder engagement and outreach, we have regional support and technical services. And along with that is, although we've realigned the CATS managers within the Program Development Division at the headquarters office, they still reside in the field. So we still have 2 CATS managers in each region. So the CATS managers, in a sense, serve as a liaison between the headquarters office as well as the regions. And it just goes back and forth just to make sure that we're communicating PHMSA's key core mission and function within the headquarters and field. So also key to this program is collaboration, relationships, and partnerships, and that's with all of our stakeholders, policy and program development as well. Our CATS managers do a variety of tasks. It's just amazing some of the things that they do. Christy talked about some of our outreach initiatives and our Call 811 program and our Impact Month activities, and our CATS managers are working hand in hand with us and ensuring that we're continuing to advance pipeline safety, but also promote damage prevention initiatives as well. And our CATS managers also get involved with technology, data, and information as well. So I outlined here some of their roles and responsibilities, and I've aligned it with our strategic goals. I am not going to go into a lot of detail here, but I do want to highlight some of the key functions of the program and some of their roles and responsibilities as well. So the CATS managers absolutely serve as a liaison between the headquarters and the regions. That's a really key core function. But they also speak and present at various pipeline safety meetings, workshops, conferences, public meetings. I mean, wherever you need our CATS managers to be, they will be there. They respond to public inquiries and complaints. And regarding pipeline operations and pipeline facilities, they also participate and work with emergency responders and some of the emergency response exercise drills as well. They consult on rulemaking activities. We have some of our CATS managers that actually work and provide technical assistance and advice on some of our rulemaking teams. We have another workshop in Colorado on underground storage, and one of our CATS managers, Tom Finch, is at that actual workshop, but he's also on the underground storage rulemaking team. So it's just an example of the diverse and dynamic work that they do. They also perform inspections, including public awareness, operator qualification, operations and maintenance, as well as integrity management inspections. And they also participate on various work groups and committees, including the Common Ground Alliance. All of our CATS managers either lead a committee on the Common Ground Alliance or they participate in some other way as an alternate or as just a member of the team. So you can look through these 2 slides and really see some of the more detailed information on some of their roles and responsibilities as well. So I have it on both slides. And then there's my role. I see myself as the glue that holds it all together. I don't know if the CATS managers always see me as that way. They probably see me as a pest because I really send out quite a few emails to the group, or I schedule several meetings, or I'm picking up the phone to call them. But again, it's a testament to their dedication to pipeline safety, because no matter what we ask them to do, they ensure that it gets done. And I'll give you an example. We do have a CATS manager that works outside of our Western Region office, and I asked him, do you mind flying all the way to Florida to a public meeting that was really important to the agency? It was regarding excavator enforcement. And I believe he had just come back from vacation, and he trotted across the country to make sure that PHMSA had a presence at this meeting. So it's just a great group of folks that we work with. So back to my role. So I do manage the CATS program. I develop the annual National CATS Action Plan. And within that action plan, it is aligned with the agency's strategic goals and objectives, and we have performance metrics there and actions. So I manage that, and I ensure that, I track it, and I ensure that we're on task in accomplishing what we've set out to do with our action plans. So our action plan is risk-based, and it's based on the top 15 states that Christy mentioned as well. And it's just ensuring that we are communicating our national program priorities and accomplishing them as well. So I do help and provide assistance in the hiring of the new CATS managers. We have 2 new CATS managers that have come on board recently, and we're hoping to hire 2 more fairly soon. Also facilitate monthly CATS managers meetings and an annual face-to-face meeting. And that's to really ensure that we're speaking in one voice, and that we have at our forefront what our agency's mission is and what our accomplishments and goals need to be for the year. Some of the other things that I do, because my job is not just limited to the National CATS Coordinator role, I do attend and support some of our stakeholder engagements and meetings and conferences as well. I do help create some of our outreach messaging, and I support a lot of our damage prevention initiatives. I am the grant coordinator for the technical assistance grant. I also support our website and ensuring that it's updated and the content is up to date, and that we're being responsive to the needs of all of our stakeholders. But again, I really do have to give the credit to the CATS managers, because they are really out in the field and they're working hand in hand with you all each and every day. Some of our key focus areas for 2016 are damage prevention and legislative support, our Call 811 program and awareness. That's definitely one of our key core focus areas for this year. But it's also the excavator enforcement rule. We want to make sure that we have a policy in place so that this rule can be implemented in full. A new area for us is cross-border safety. And again, I'm not going to go through this whole list. I think the key thing here is certainly stakeholder engagement and outreach and education. And I know that we had a member of the public that said that they needed to see us more, and we needed to make sure that we have more input from the public. So we have considered a lot of those things, and in our next fiscal year, and as we develop our new action plan, we do have some plans in place where we're going to be engaging more with the public. So we're hoping to actually get out more, have more, not necessarily workshops, but more, here is PHMSA, this is what we do, this is what pipeline safety looks like, this is who is involved in pipeline safety. So we're continuing to put that together, and you'll hear more about that in the near future. One of the things that we do is, again, we want to be proactive. We want to make sure that we're ahead of some of the risks that are inherent with pipeline safety. So our CATS managers, as they're reaching out to their stakeholders, as they're responding to public inquiries, as they are speaking at public meetings, they're listening to your concerns. And so twice a year, what we do is we gather all these concerns and we look at common themes. And as we're looking at these themes, we try to incorporate or change our program so that we're ahead of these issues and addressing them. So some of our top stakeholder concerns that are at our forefront right now is jurisdiction and siting issues. We get a lot of concerns and issues about that. New construction, proposed pipelines, pipeline safety in general, rights of way and easement issues, and of course, pipeline data and information. So as we start looking at these themes and looking at these concerns, what we're trying to do, again, is incorporate them into some of our initiatives or activities. Or I'll give you an example. We know that new construction is a big issue, so we are developing new brochures, new information to put on our website, so we're addressing this. We know that jurisdiction and siting is a key issue, so we're developing FAQs, and we plan to put them on our website where we are responding to these types of inquiries in advance. And we also know that there's some ambiguity as it relates to proposed pipelines and what's PHMSA's role or what's FERC's role. So we're also looking at developing additional information and information on our website where, again, we're ahead of these types of concerns. So here's my favorite part, because I get to, and I know that our deputy administrator definitely had all of our CATS managers stand up, but I wanted to show a picture of them and give you an opportunity to actually see who they are and which regions they represent. So we have, on the left, we have Bill Lowry, Tom Finch, and Karen Gentile. So Bill Lowry represents our Southwest region. Tom Finch, who's not with us today, represents our Western region, and then Karen Gentile, who spoke earlier today, represents the Eastern region. So we also have Dave Mulligan, who's on the right, and that's myself. And Dave represents the Western region, along with Tom Finch. So in this picture on the left, we have Jay Prothero, and Jay Prothero is here with us today from the Southwest region. And then we have Angela Pickett, who's one of our newest CATS managers. I believe she's been on board a couple of months now, and she's here from the Central region. So I know that we had a question from a representative of CERT from Michigan, and so Angela Pickett will be your point of contact at PHMSA. And we also had a question from a gentleman in Oregon as well. So Dave Mulligan, if you could just wave your hand in the back, is going to be your point of contact. And, you know, these guys are, I can't stress enough, they are completely awesome. The vast majority of them are engineers and inspectors. So in addition to providing community assistance, they can definitely provide you with the technical assistance that you need, because they do this work each and every day. So they are our technical experts in the field for you. So we also have on the left here, James Terry Powell. I'm not sure if he's in here right now. Oh, he is here, great. So Terry is with us from the Southern region, and he's on detail. And he's also an engineer and an inspector, and we were really lucky that he was willing to serve in this capacity. We're really grateful for all the work that great work that he's done thus far. So this is a picture of Terry giving a presentation at one of our NAPSR meetings earlier this year. We have Artie Buff, who's also from the Southern region. He's on our panel today. And Ian Woods from the Eastern region. So Ian is also one of our newest CATS managers. He's been here for about 2 months now. Exactly. So again, we're very grateful for Ian as well. So I do have the contact information here for all of the CATS managers, and listed within here are the states that they represent as well. So their emails are here as well as their phone numbers, and please feel free to reach out to the CATS managers. I am also available as well. If you have any questions at all, or if you have any requests for them to participate in meetings or conferences, this is what we're here for. We're here to serve you. And again, as I've stated, these are definitely the most dedicated and committed public servants that I've worked with. And I'm sure that you would feel the same way if you've reached out to them and gotten the information that you need. So thank you very much for your time today. The CATS managers will be here for the rest of the day. I am here for the rest of the day. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for that very informative overview of the CATS program. They're a great resource to everyone moving forward. Next up, we'll have Mr. Artie Buff, who is our Southern Region CATS Manager, come up and talk to us a little bit about some of the great work he's been doing with emergency responder stakeholders in the state of Georgia and beyond, related to training and some of their other pipeline safety related needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy, and I want to thank Karen. I didn't realize how much work I had been doing, so thank you for that. I'm going to talk about what we call PERI, which is Pipeline Emergency Responder Initiatives. I'm going to tell you what they are, why they're needed, how they got started, and if you look at the logo on the slide, that was developed by the Georgia Pipeline Emergency Responder Initiative Steering Committee. And Georgia is where we had the first initiative developed, and it's being implemented right now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that initiative, how it got started, and I'm also going to talk about where we are with some of these initiatives in some of the other states. A Pipeline Emergency Responder Initiative is simply a public-private partnership among emergency response organizations and pipeline operators for the purpose of improving pipeline emergency response. And one thing I want to stress, this is a totally voluntary program. We do regulate the pipeline industry, but there's no regulatory requirements for pipeline operators to participate in this program. It's a totally voluntary program. What we're trying to accomplish with these initiatives, first we want to enhance emergency responders' understanding of pipeline risk and hazards. And we know emergency responders already know how to handle emergencies, but unfortunately pipeline emergencies are not high on their priority list. And there's a good reason for that. Incidents involving our hazardous liquid and gas transmission pipelines, our larger pipelines, incidents with those pipelines don't happen very often. So consequently, they're not high priority for these emergency responders. And what we're trying to do is give basic information to these emergency responders on pipelines, where these pipelines are located in their communities, what size these pipelines are, what pressures they operate under, what types of fluids are going through these pipelines, what do they need to know about those fluids. We just want to provide them basic information on pipelines, so if there is a pipeline incident, they'll be better able to manage it. We also want to strengthen the relationships between the pipeline operators and the emergency responders. We want them to get to know each other, know their capabilities, their strengths, some of their challenges. So when there is a pipeline emergency, these groups will work much better together, will have a much more effective response. And we're also developing these initiatives in multiple states, and eventually we'd like to see this and consider this as a national program where we have emergency responders getting this pipeline emergency training, so if we do have any pipeline emergencies anywhere in the country, we'll have a much more effective response. Now, there are regulatory requirements. I'm sure the pipeline operators are very familiar with these. They have to develop emergency response plans and emergency plans. They have to liaison, and as Christy mentioned, there's many definitions of what liaison means with these emergency responders. Under public awareness programs, they have to provide messages and information to the emergency response community as well as other public officials. And the operators have basically been meeting these requirements, but it's sort of questionable as far as how effective they've been in meeting these requirements. And typically what a pipeline operator would do, they'd have a meeting, they'd invite emergency responders, they'd provide lunch, and in recent years, attendance, it's my understanding that attendance has been falling off at these meetings, so it's very difficult to get a good response. And the operators aren't sure just who is showing up at these meetings. Are they getting the right individuals? And then the pipeline operators are sort of forcing or pushing information on these emergency responders, and they're not sure if they're giving them the right information, if they're retaining the information, if they're receiving it in a way that they're used to receiving it. So it's sort of been questionable just how effective they've been in meeting these requirements. Now, we had what we call our kickoff meeting in Georgia, in Sandy Springs, which is a suburb of Atlanta, May 2012. We invited a bunch of emergency responders, pipeline operators, and the purpose of the meeting was just to have a conversation and see if there was an interest in moving forward and developing some type of program or initiative that would improve communications between the two groups and also provide specific training on pipelines and pipeline emergencies. And prior to having this initial meeting, of course, we had several meetings with pipeline operators and emergency responders. And one person we met with, Chief Jack McElfish, and you can see him in the photograph, he's since retired, and he's standing with the former PHMSA administrator, Cynthia Quarterman. And Chief McElfish is like a superstar in the firefighting business, very impressive resume. He knows a lot of people, he's very well respected, and he was very, very helpful in getting started and getting a lot of good participation in the emergency response community. And one of the things he recommended for our initial meeting was that the fire chiefs host it. Instead of having the pipeline operators host the meeting, provide the refreshments, that was done by the fire chiefs. And I think it added a lot more credibility in the emergency response community, and we did get a better turnout with the emergency responders. We had over 50 attendees at that initial meeting. And one of the outputs from that meeting was that a steering committee was formed, and in a minute I'll go over who we put on the steering committee. And we actually had local media coverage of this meeting, and it was very positive. They talked about how these responders and pipeline operators are getting together in Georgia, so if there is a pipeline emergency, they'll be able to respond very effectively to it. And the media also talked about the San Bruno incident, which took place about a year before this meeting. It was a horrific incident, multiple fatalities, multiple injuries, a lot of property damage. And the media mentioned that the fire chief in San Bruno was not aware that there was a high-pressure gas transmission line running through his community. In fact, there were 3 such high-pressure transmission lines, and they were there around 50 or 60 years prior to the incident. So the media talked about that and how we're trying to prevent something similar from happening in Georgia. Steering committee members, we had a really good response from the emergency response community. We had fire departments, Georgia Association of Fire Chiefs, Association of Firefighters, State Fire Marshal, Emergency Management Agency, which is under Homeland Security, Forestry Commission, Georgia Public Safety Training Center, or as we affectionately call it, GIPSTIC. And they're a very big facility, a huge training facility in Forsyth, Georgia, which is in the center part of the state. And they train all public safety officials, law enforcement, firefighters, emergency responders. And if you're wondering why the Forestry Commission was included, there's actually a lot of pipelines that run through state and national forests. They do a lot of logging operations, and we certainly don't want them damaging one of our pipelines. If there's a forest fire, the firefighters more than likely are going to be digging trenches to contain the fire, and the last thing you want those firefighters to do is to hit a high-pressure natural gas pipeline while they're trying to put out a forest fire. We had a lot of good participation among various types of pipeline operators. We had the Georgia Association of Georgia Municipal Association. They represented 83 municipal gas companies in the state of Georgia. We also had the intra and interstate pipeline operators represented, gas distribution, and on the liquid side we had refined petroleum products as well as highly volatile liquids. So we had a really good mix of different types of pipeline operators. And lastly, we had the regulators. PHMSA and Georgia Public Service Commission was represented on the steering committee, and the Georgia Public Service Commission is responsible for around 83,000 miles of gas distribution pipeline in the state of Georgia. And in addition to this list, we also added Georgia 811 because damage prevention is very, very important, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. One of the first things that the steering committee did was come up with a mission statement, a very all-encompassing statement that clearly defined what it is the group was trying to do, what it is we were trying to accomplish. and that mission is advance the ability of Georgia emergency responders to manage pipeline emergencies through improved training, cooperation, and communication with pipeline operators. Very concise statement, and that's exactly what the initiative has accomplished. Now, this slide shows Tim Butters, who was the former deputy administrator. He's addressing the Georgia Association of Fire Chiefs at their annual meeting and trade show that was held in Savannah, Georgia. And Tim Butters had a very extensive background in firefighting and emergency response. He was very supportive of the initiative in Georgia, and he actually participated by conference call with the steering committee, offered some good advice, and he was invited to be the keynote speaker addressing these fire chiefs. And it was a very large group. I think there were 200 fire chiefs at this meeting. And we had a lot of fire chiefs on the steering committee, and they invited both the pipeline operators and the regulators to participate at this meeting, which we did. This is the booth that PHMSA had, and we had a big map of Georgia that showed the hazardous liquid and gas transmission pipelines, and there was a lot of interest among the fire chiefs in looking at that map to see if they had any of these major pipelines running through their communities. And that's Tim Butters and some guy from PHMSA standing next to him. Tim Butters is in the center, and I think the caption on this slide says pretty much all you need to know about it. Colonial Pipeline had a display, as did some of the other pipeline operators, and the Municipal Gas Association was also there. And again, there was a lot of interest among the fire chiefs in finding out more about pipelines. And that's Donna Harrington Burns. She was on the steering committee, and also she's on the board created to carry this initiative forward. And she's here in person, if you'll raise your hand, Donna. and if anyone wants to get the pipeline operators' perspective on these initiatives, you can talk to Donna. I'm sure she'll be happy to talk to you about it. Now, you've heard a lot of the speakers talk about excavation damage, damage prevention. It's a very, very big issue. Excavation damage is a leading cause of pipeline incidents nationally. In the 20-year period through 2014, almost 38% of all fatalities a result of damage, excavation damage to both hazardous liquid and gas pipelines. So it is a very serious issue. I'm sure a lot of you are aware that regulations were published last year that took effect this year to try and cut down on damage done to pipelines through excavation. So recognizing this, when the first pipeline emergency training course was developed in Georgia, it was a 2-day, 16-hour course. It was given at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center, or GIPSTIC. And one thing we wanted to include in that course was information on excavation damage prevention, just basic information that we wanted these emergency responders to know, such as the role and importance of 811, how do you locate these underground utilities, particularly pipelines, what's the procedure for locating them, and also what we call excavation awareness, how to tell if a line has been located at a working site. When these emergency responders are making their rounds, they see someone digging, they'll have enough awareness to either go up to the excavator, see if they have an 811 call ticket, or just look and see if there's markings for the underground pipes and utilities, and see if the excavator is paying attention and working within those markings. Now, these are the different logos that were created by the steering committees where we have either completed initiatives or we're working on initiatives. And Georgia is the upper left-hand corner. They completed their initiative, and it's an ongoing training process, and they've trained over 1,000 emergency responders in pipeline emergency training to date. Alabama and South Carolina started about the same time, one the end of last year, the other the beginning of this year. They had their kickoff meetings, and each one has had, they both formed steering committees. Each steering committee has met several times, and they're progressing a lot quicker than Georgia. Not that they're better than Georgia, but we went through the process in Georgia from scratch. We've developed a written program, and these states are using it as a guideline, but recognizing that each state is different, they're going to have their own unique information in those programs, but there's no point in reinventing the wheel, so they're using parts of the Georgia program that fits in their particular states. North Carolina, which Christy failed to mention, but that was one state that we also have an initiative ongoing. We had the first steering committee meeting recently. We had a lot of pipeline operators, very few emergency responders, and one of the things we discussed at the meeting was we need to get more emergency response participation on the steering committee. So that's what we're working on now. And interestingly enough, that particular initiative was started by a pipeline operator that was familiar with the Georgia program, and he did a lot of legwork in getting the groups together leading up to the formation of a steering committee. And then next week, we have a kickoff meeting in Oklahoma, and my counterpart, Jay Prothro, back there, back of the room, he's in charge of it, and he's been putting together the meeting, and so far, we have 95 confirmed attendees. That's a really large number. It shows there's a lot of interest in Oklahoma, and I'm looking forward to helping Jay out next week with this initiative. And how this initiative got started was also fairly interesting. There was a pipeline operator out of Oklahoma that had a lot of pipelines in the southwest central part of the country, but had some pipelines, not very many, in South Carolina. And she attended the kickoff meeting in South Carolina and came up to me afterward and asked if they can develop an initiative in Oklahoma. And I told her, yeah, I can help out. I'll talk to my counterpart in the Southwest region, and I'd be happy to assist. In the meantime, she contacted a bunch of emergency responders and pipeline operators and set up a conference call, asked if I would participate, which I did. And I was expecting a few people on the call. There were 19 people on the conference call. And the purpose of the call was for me to talk about the Georgia program and answer their questions. So there is a lot of interest. The word is getting out, and we expect to see more and more of these initiatives started. I have some really good contacts in Florida in the emergency response community and hope to get something going there, as well as Tennessee. And I've even gotten calls from both New Jersey and New Hampshire. New Hampshire was an emergency management group that heard about the Georgia initiative and wanted some information and is thinking about starting one there. So the word is definitely spreading and getting out on these initiatives. And there's a web page link you can go to find out information on all of these pipeline initiatives. Some of the challenges that we have moving forward in developing these initiatives: providing sustainable training. It's very important. We want this to be an ongoing program. And what we did in Georgia, we have a Train the Trainer program where we train key individuals at fire departments so they in turn can train their personnel. I talked about this earlier. There's just a low priority on pipeline emergency training because pipeline incidents, fortunately, don't happen very often. Getting key emergency responder participation has been an issue in some states, particularly North Carolina. Getting the pipeline operators on board is easy because they know PHMSA personnel, they deal with PHMSA, plus they have regulatory requirements to interact with pipeline operators, so it's a lot easier to get them on board, but it's a little more challenging to get adequate participation in the emergency response community. Meeting logistics is an issue. Georgia was easy because all the participants on the steering committee were, I'd say, within a 45-minute drive of downtown Atlanta where most of the meetings were held. But some states it's going to be very difficult. In Florida, you had the Panhandle, you had the Keys, and a lot of territory in between. So it's going to be hard to get key individuals, particularly in the emergency response community in various areas of the state where we can all get together and have a meeting. And one thing in talking to emergency responders, they've been telling me that in recent years, there's just been an explosion of different items that they have to be aware of. There's just more and more demand on their time. There's just more things they need to know. And now we're trying to push even additional information regarding pipelines on them. So that's another challenge that we have. One thing we want to do on these initiatives is establish a baseline. We want to know where we are right now as far as these emergency responders, what is their knowledge of pipelines and pipeline emergencies. So once we have these programs up and running, we can go back and see just how effective we've been in providing this pipeline training. And establishing an entity and funding to sustain the program. In Georgia, a board was created under the umbrella of the Georgia Association of Fire Chiefs. There's 8 members, or 11 members, 8 voting members, 4 representatives from the emergency response community, 4 pipeline operators. And as far as funding, most of the funding is going to come from the pipeline operators, but they're spending a lot of money now on emergency plans, on the liaison, on public awareness, and it doesn't necessarily mean new money for these programs. It can just be shifting money to a program that may be a more effective way to meet their regulatory requirements. And why do we think these initiatives will succeed? Because everybody involved benefits. All the groups involved in these initiatives have one goal in common. Even though we come at it from different angles and different aspects, everyone's concerned with public safety. That's the ultimate goal. We want to protect the environment, and we want to protect property, and everyone involved in these initiatives has that one goal, and the purpose of these initiatives ultimately is public safety. So we feel it's a great program and everyone will benefit, and that is my information. It says Southern Region, even though I work for Christie out of headquarters, but I live in the Southern Region in Atlanta and support the Southern Region. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you, Artie, for providing such great insight into what we're doing from an emergency response perspective, one of many things of what we're doing. So next up, we will hear from Mr. Don Ledversis. He is a Chief Compliance Inspector of Gas Pipeline Safety and Damage Prevention Compliance with the State of Rhode Island Division of Public Utilities and Carriers. Mr. Ledversis remains involved with national public awareness activities and initiatives, and he also is representing the National Association of Pipeline Safety Representatives, NAPSR is what we refer to it as, and he participated on our Public Awareness Program Working Group. So we welcome Don up to talk about some of the not damage prevention, but public awareness activities from a state perspective.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm actually the gas inspector in the state of Rhode Island. I've been doing it for 18 years, and public awareness is one of my pet peeves because when it goes wrong and it goes bad. I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty. I'm going to show you some things when things go wrong and how we have to work hard and fix this problem because it's been going on for a long time, and I need your help. I need everybody's help. We all have a skin in the game here, believe it or not. How many people were at our meeting in Dallas? Okay, so we had a few people that were there. Believe it or not, that was a long time ago. That was 1,119 days ago we met. And a lot's happened since then. Public awareness is dynamic. You have to do it every day. You have to be on your game every single day of the week. 266 days after that Dallas meeting on March 12, 2014, East Harlem, New York, 8 people died. And it was a problem with public awareness. It was one issue. There are other issues, but I'm just going to talk about public awareness today and how it failed us. The NTSB, you probably know them from airplane crashes, but they also do pipeline incidents too, issued a report based on the East Harlem incident. And what's important here is the timeline. If you look at 9:06 in the morning, one of the residences reported smelling gas that morning. But what's underlined is the night before. They didn't call the night before when they smelled gas. They waited to the next day. Now, if you look at the next timeline, 9:30, 24 minutes later, this building exploded. 8 people died. It was 9:30 in the morning. Most people were probably at work. This could have been a lot worse. The bottom line says the mechanic was en route. This is how close we were to prevent this from happening. It was a phone call that wasn't made the night before. Was it this person's responsibility? Maybe somebody else smelled gas too. Obviously, if it's leaking the night before, maybe somebody else would have smelled it and didn't call. That's what we need to educate. That's what the whole public awareness is about. The abstract, very, very specific, says the accident was due to the effectiveness of the public awareness program. The program did not effectively inform customers and the public about the importance of reporting a gas leak and the number to call to report it. It's that simple. You smell gas, you call it in, the company responds, they evacuate if necessary, whatever. Okay, now I always do a survey. I know you've been sitting, you've been very quiet. I need your participation on this one. How many people in the audience have ever called in a gas leak in their entire life? This is absolutely amazing, what this show of hands. I just did a conference with 185 people, not one person in the entire room. So I have to believe it's based on demographics. I believe it's based on people that maybe grew up in their families. That was something they felt was their responsibility to act upon something. Those are the triggers that we have to find. What is the failure? What do we have to do to get going on this? Now, what's interesting, has anyone ever been to a different country and called in a gas leak? One person. I was actually in London, and I walked by a gas truck, and I just happened to see the sign on the truck that, you know, the number was pretty cool. I just caught it in my eye. A half hour later, I ended up calling in a gas leak. I remember the number. It was quick, it was easy, and I thought it was my responsibility to do that. Now, the history of public awareness, believe it or not, the history of public awareness goes back to 1976. That's 40 years ago. And so we've been at this for a long time. My young man right in the front row there, were you born in 1976? Isn't that interesting? Well, let me tell you something. I'm asking you for your help. You're a young person. I'm getting older. You know, maybe I failed at my job, so maybe we need you, your talent, your friends, the young people to get involved and help us, because this is everybody's game here. So 1976, we came out with a rule, and then 17 years later, we had four people die, and this was in Kansas City, Missouri, and Topeka, Kansas. Same thing, NTSB does an investigation, and what do they tell you? The gas odor was detected long before the ignition, both cases gone unreported. Nobody called it in. So in '94, we moved it from emergency plan into public education. 8 years after that, we had a Pipeline Safety Improvement Act. We had advisories. We adopted 1162, 58 pages long. We call it the rule of 29, which means there's 29 pages of body, 29 pages of appendixes that aren't enforceable. 229 should statements. That's a lot of should statements. But a very good document that lays out the guidelines, how to follow the program. Definite plus right there. I can't say enough about that. And then we had another amendment that, believe it or not, public awareness gets right down to a business that has 2 gas meters on it that may be fed by propane, all the way up to a transmission line that may be operating at over 2,000 pounds. So it covers the gambit of the product on the entire country, A to Z. Now, in that amendment that we gave to the small people, the small operators, all we asked them to do is send a couple of notices a year. You know, that's not really asking a lot, is it, for safety? And I believe Karen mentioned that some of those people didn't even do that. I mean, of the minimum of things we're asking of you, they didn't even do it. 19 years since Kansas, we're back again. Carmichael, Mississippi, this was a propane explosion, 2 people died. The investigation showed, NTSB investigation showed that they discovered that the mailings that went to this particular neighborhood were mixed up, and the people that perished in this incident did not receive the mailing. Due to a glitch in the mail system or a post office box, whatever happened here. But once again, could have been avoidable. So NTSB said the effectiveness of the public education program was a problem. You keep seeing this over and over again. We used to have a checklist, the federal inspectors and state inspectors like myself, where we would just give you check marks. This is what we call the check mark approach, where I would sit across the table from you as the operator. You would plead your case and prove to me that you've met compliance. We'd give you a check mark. So we didn't think that that was working effectively. We changed that. We went to what's called the Form 21, which is more in-depth, more of a situation where you have to prove your case. You're not just going to get a check mark right off the bat. You have to really prove to me that you've done everything you possibly could to get that check mark and meet compliance. So here we are, 40 years later. We have a document. I hope everybody read it. I know it was kind of long, but I represent 48 states in the United States. I don't represent Alaska and Hawaii, but every one of those states has an inspector like myself, 350 of them. Some states have 40, 50 inspectors, whatever. But what I do is I survey them. We put together what's called a survey monkey. They go online and they can actually fill out the survey. It's just questions that they fill in the blank. So of my 48 states, I've got 27 people responding. Do you think that's a good survey? Do you think that that survey holds any weight? Believe it or not, that's pretty good for us to get that type of response, because people don't take it seriously. I know this time of year with elections coming up, you probably get calls at your house for surveys, and sometimes you don't feel like answering them, or you just lie to them and tell them whatever you want to tell them. And surveys are tough. They're very hard. They're very difficult to get 100% response. You don't even know if the people are telling you the truth. So I suffer with the same problem that you have. Now, this is interesting. 11 people that responded actually tell me they didn't even read the report. You know, that's, to me, is, wow, you busy? I mean, I'm asking you to do something to help me, but you haven't done it. But at least you're honest about it. Okay, so 11 people also told me, well, I read portions of it. Now, you probably could read portions of this report and get the gist of it. But of the answers I did receive, this is what the key takeaways were from my group of inspectors. And this is interesting, where it says, the operators are required to have plans and present them to public officials, but the officials are not required to listen or participate. That's kind of hard. That's almost like having children and ask them to do something, right? You have to keep on top of it, otherwise they're just going to keep up with their attitude, I guess. One thing that we need to do, and I think we've talked about it already, is establish a method of sharing nationally the best of the best public awareness practices. In other words, some companies don't have big budgets. They can't invent things. They can't be creative. So they need to copy other people. Why not? You know, if you're doing something good, let everybody know about it, and hopefully the results will be better. So there's no need to keep it a secret what you're doing. I know you spend a lot of money. You may feel like you're entitled to do that, but the betterment of everyone is to share it. Okay, now these are my own inspectors that use the inspection form. When they do the inspection, here they are complaining to me. I was on the committee that put this form together, so kind of it's a hit to me, but I agree with them. There is a little problem on the form where it doesn't really address 16F and 440F, which is one particular question. So, you know, something like that can be fixed very easily, I think. And regulations, they want to change the code. You know, so we're tired of inspecting the code. It doesn't really give me enough guidance or room to do my job properly. So the key here is there's two codes. One says you have to educate the public, and then the next code right after that says you have to advise school locations of pipeline facilities. So basically, how can you educate here and advise there? So maybe it's just a typo, but words are very important. Words are what we have to go by in the code. So that's something that we can work on. And then there was a request that we get some guidance on what is the commonly understood number concentration of non-English speaking population. In other words, you have a pipeline, you may have 50,000 miles of pipeline in the United States. And everywhere that pipeline crosses an area where there may be different speaking people than English, when do I know I have to educate them in their language? I mean, it's ink on paper, technically. I mean, it doesn't probably cost a lot of money to produce it, but you have to meet these people and get that point of view to them. Why not? Requirements for operators to directly meet with emergency responders. This one here, we've been going at this one for a long time. We believe you have to shake hands with the fire department. You have to meet face to face with them. You can't have these, chicken bakes and have some people show up and hand out some papers. It just doesn't work. You really need to sit down face to face. They need to know you. You need to know them. And obviously they have retirements. They have new people come on board. So this is a perpetual situation where you have to meet with your fire departments. You may have, like I said, 50, 60,000 miles of pipe. That's a lot of fire departments that you're going to be meeting with all the time, but that's what has to be done. Question 2, this is what the states have seen for companies going above and beyond, and I think we really have seen a lot of this above and beyond. The CGA has they have groups in every state. We have one in our state called the MUST Group, and we actually have meetings all the time. We do demonstrations and presentations for excavators. Anyone that really wants to listen to us, we'll set up at their show. But everybody, I think, can agree when we picked the Kentucky Derby winner and the Triple Crown winner and had 811 posted on his hat and his boot, that went a long way. And NASCAR, Joey Logano has the sticker on his card. He wins a lot of races. So in our area of the country, we feel that racing, people that are into racing, baseball, are excavators. So we go after them. We actually do billboards at baseball games. We have an airplane that flies a banner across the beaches. So we're progressive in that. And now what's interesting is Texas has a regulation which is above and beyond the federal code. So in other words, the federal code is this book here, but in your state, if you say, you know what, it's just not enough, I want to go further, any state can pass a law that's above and beyond the federal code to say, look, we need more from you. This code's not working. In other words, you can go to your state inspector, they're on NAPSA.org. You can go on NAPSA.org, find out who these people are in your state, approach them, their Public Utility Commission, whoever, and see if you can get a law passed, because they have a lot better opportunities to pass laws quicker and get things on the book than it may take to go through the federal process. But in Texas, for example, they actually require once a year, not to exceed 15 months, a face-to-face meeting. This is a big law. I only have a very little piece of it, but if you want to read it, you can see where they ask for documentation. It's very intense when they say, look, you're going to have a liaison. This is what you're going to do. I have liaison with relatives where I see them once a year on holidays, and then I have some that I borrow their garden equipment every day. So that's the interesting thing about liaison. Okay, mail-outs. Some states actually mail out more frequently than required, which is, I think, a great thing, because you have transients, you have people that, maybe move in August, move out in May, college-type people, where you have to go after them. You have to get them. You can't stay on the regular cycle. You have to do your best to accommodate that particular population. Okay, so going beyond compliance, I talked about this in Dallas. This is something that I actually thought of myself, where we have a phone app. It's just a little picture of a gas flame, where if I smell gas, wherever I am in the country, I just push that little app and it'll request, do you know what you're doing? You're going to be reporting a gas leak. Do you want to continue? Yes or no? You hit yes. And by triangulation, it would know where your phone is, because I may be traveling. I don't know where I am right now. And it would identify to that local gas distribution company where that gas leak is. Very simple. I don't have to bother anybody. It's probably quick. I could probably do it in between my Pokemon Go game, right? Okay, so another thing, we have state gas associations. We have one in our area, the NGA. This happens to be Ohio, where they actually do a public awareness effectiveness survey for the whole state, and then they report the news, good, bad, or indifferent, to the entire state. And maybe this year you're on the good side, maybe next year you're on the bad side, but that way there keeps it competitive. I think, everybody knows that maybe your laundry's not as clean as it used to be, whatever. So that competition, I think, may go a long way. Okay, so where are we going from here in the future? What we would like to see, actually, is a national ad campaign similar to educate the public, similar to 811, where we can leverage a consolidated generic message. Now, we have to teach 350+ million people what we're talking about. And we think it's a corporate social responsibility. We think it's a great idea. We'd like to implement the opportunities found in the SWOT report. I know there's a lot of them. It's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. We may not have all of them accomplished, but anything that we get accomplished is definitely for the betterment. 3, we'd like to cut down on destroying the forests, I guess, because people are becoming inundated, especially if they have a multiple corridor behind their house. I learned at this committee that we were on that some people have up to 10, 15 pipelines going in their backyard. So if number 6 breaks, who do you call? You may have liquid coming out, you may have propane, you may have gas, you may have who knows what. So every message has to be different, and how you educate a person. I mean, I've been in business 18 years here, and I'd have a problem telling you which pipeline just burst and who I'd had to call in that particular situation. So obviously, some things are very, very difficult to accomplish. Some of our inspectors don't like the 4-year effectiveness evaluation. They'd rather go to 2 years. They think 4 years is way too long, and too many things happen. You have a lot of turnover in companies where you may go through 2 or 3 people in charge of that department by the time you get to the 4th year. So that's their recommendation, go every 2 years. And we do recommend or require that there's an annual meeting with emergency responders once a year. That's something that we'd like to see happen. Okay. There's always the simple way out, too. We can just leave everything the same and do nothing. We can pack our bags and go home. Why not, right? It's an option, something we could do. Hopefully this last slide I can convince you that's probably not a good idea. It's just a matter of time before the next incident happens. Remember, the other one was 266 days from our last meeting. How many days is it going to go from this meeting? Now, do you want your company's name on the next NTSB report because your public awareness program didn't educate? Nobody wants to go down in history that way. I mean, you push a lot of product every day. I think you do an admirable job based on the variables and things that are out there against you, but you have to keep plugging every single day of the week, 24 hours a day, and I need your help and your friends. And you did a great job on that drawing, so you got a good start. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Very, very insightful. Okay, so we're at a great point where we're happy to take any questions from the viewers. This time around, I'd like to start and see first if the webcast viewers have any questions. Nothing yet? Okay, great. So we'll take questions from the audience.
Thank you. This is apropos of improving regulations, both about public awareness programs, but also about operational safety measures. I actually formulated this after hearing Mr. Mayberry speak, but Mr. Ledversus's talk really drove it home. So I have a suggestion for a basic change that I think would really improve public awareness programs and thus public safety. Since, as Mr. Mayberry said, some operators have an attitude of, we complied with the law, even though a spill occurred, why not say that having a spill is noncompliance with the regulations and then would result automatically in penalties? And this would give operators a strong motive to go ahead above and beyond the minimum standards, and it would encourage innovation.
What spill were you talking about in specific, or any spill? Any spill in general? Well, let's just take a spill in general. What will happen is the state will investigate. Perhaps PHMSA will come in, depending on who has jurisdiction. There'll be compliance, met or not met, based on the laws. There could be compliance orders issued, there could be fines, penalties, combination of both. That's how the process works. There'll be an investigation. Was the public awareness plan adequate at that time? Now, what's interesting, when you have an oil spill, for example, if your public awareness is a 660-foot radius around that spill, but the spill goes into a culvert and runs down the street and ends up in somebody's backyard 2 miles away, those people wouldn't be educated by that particular mailing on the 660-foot radius, because the product, is going to go wherever the least resistance is. It's just going to flow. So in a case like that, it'll go into different areas, find itself in places nobody would expect. So you have to educate nationally. Everybody has to know. For example, when that leak went through somebody's yard, they didn't go over there and wash their hands in it. They didn't drink it because they know better, because they've been trained, educated, maybe in the first, second, or third grade. Stop, drop, and roll. You can send me every flyer in the world for stop, drop, and roll. I already know it. I got it. I got the message. I understand it. I know what to do. But these products of hazardous materials, people don't know. They're not educated. We have to educate them. It's a long road ahead of us, and we have to stay on top of it, and it's difficult.
So it's quite possible that I don't understand how things work, but I had a different point. Like if in that situation it flowed by gravity to another place outside the zone where they were required to notify people, but that's not something that no one could have foreseen. I mean, because you can use LiDAR or whatever and see where gravity would take things. And so if they just do the minimum and a tragedy still occurs, I think they should be liable, because they could have, if they had put more money and more effort into saying, well, what could go wrong here, then they could have foreseen it and taken more measures. That's my point, and I don't know if that's, I don't think that's how it works now, is it?
Yeah, basically, the way it works right now is if you go outside and you get in your car and you drive 70 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone, you may get caught. You may not get caught. So you've decided yourself that I want to do that. I want to break the law. There are people like my son. He won't go over 55. He knows that's the law, and he's happy with that. And I understand that. So each and every one of us will make these decisions. All I have is this book of laws in front of me, and I can only enforce what's in that book. I can't go above and beyond. A company can go above and beyond, and a lot of them have. As you can see from the presentations, they do go above and beyond. Some companies do, some companies don't. To model every single leak, if you have 50, 60,000 miles of pipe, it's very hard. It's based a lot on demographics. It's based on what type of soil conditions you have, what type of culverts, does it go into a sewer? That's when the emergency response people, when they show up, they have to know what's going on. They have to see it, and they can react to it. Personally, myself, emergency responders have to take a bigger role in this, because it's an emergency. That's what you get paid for every day. You are an emergency responder. You should know what's in your town, what's in your city, what's in your state, and what you need to effectively help the public. And that's your job. That's what you get paid to do. I hope I'm answering your question. I almost give you more questions when I talk.
By the way, excellent presentations. I do have a recommendation that I did not see in the SWOT analysis, and that's that Section 192.16 requires that we notify customers that they're responsible for the system after the meter. And I think that that needs to be more closely linked to public awareness, because you're not required to do an effectiveness study. We have done one, and we have found that surprisingly some customers don't know that they're responsible for after the meter. So I think that's an important thing that you should consider in any, whatever
Yes.
you do with the public awareness.
The code requirement 616, there's another code requirement that when you first become a customer, that I have to identify to you and notify you that you are responsible for all
that's
gas
very
after
true.
the meter. But it's only the first time that you become a customer that
That's
I
my
have to
point.
notify you.
That's my point. We remind them all the time,
Yeah.
and we did an assessment and found out that about 15% of the people didn't know that they were
Did not know.
responsible. Another
Okay.
15% knew that, didn't know they were responsible, but they were renters. So my point is, we focus a lot on public awareness and maintaining it, yet on 192.16, which is very important that customers maintain their system. And you were talking about the issue of gas leaks and so forth. It's a very important area.
Good, very, very good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Terry Cooper Smith from Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission, and I see a lot of stuff in Pennsylvania that, some of those things that make you go, One of the things that, in terms of public awareness, we have 811 for, damage prevention. Maybe somehow, this is a huge thing to do, is to have a simple number like that for reporting a gas leak. I was recently in Boston, and the place I was staying at a friend's house, and as soon as I came out her house, I smelled gas. And I said to her, oh, we're moving down the street here, we're going to make a phone call, and we're going to report this gas leak. And she says to me, oh, I've been smelling that for a while. Okay, so yeah, I cringed. But the point is, I took it as an opportunity, because I knew I was coming here, to ask her a couple of questions. I said, well, if you've been smelling it for a while, why didn't you do anything? Her first answer was, oh, I thought they, whoever the they is, already knew. So there's this, thought that somehow, gas companies are just everywhere and can, that it knows everything. So that was the first thing. And I said, okay, so now that you know it, how would you call this in? She wasn't even sure who to call it to. She didn't know what phone number. She knew that who her gas company was, which is National Grid, but somehow it didn't correlate that was who she should call, or define the phone number to call, and define the bill, which of course the bill is not a paper anymore, it's an email, to go back to the email, because she pays the bill by electron. So it's this whole, long cycle of how do you get the public to really understand what to do in that situation. And sometimes you have to take it to a simplistic level. A lot of people still don't know what natural gas smells like. I remember when I first moved to Pennsylvania, they used to put a card inside the bill. It was like a little scratch sniff kind of thing. And so you knew them. But now, again, people aren't getting their bills in the mail. And a lot of people don't know. They will smell something but don't correlate it to natural gas. So somehow we need to get that going. And my last point is to get them to smell that, sometimes you do have to go to kids. It's amazing how I think one of you talked about, drop and roll for fires. It's amazing when you teach kids, something as simple as what does natural gas smell like, and they bother their parents to the, to the nth degree. This is what it smells like. This is what it smells like, but at least you're starting from that level. I know that seems very simplistic, but it's amazing how kids have been able to teach adults things that we just don't think about. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you for your insights. Very good points.
Thanks. Hi. I just wanted to add to her comment. I'm Hillary from Phillips 66 Pipeline. And what we're finding in a lot of our studies is not just, and I think some of the speakers have mentioned that there's quandary about product specifications, how they react, and the public doesn't understand that. The media helps perpetuate the fact that all pipelines are similar, maybe an explosion, or we all leak, or we all have something horrific happen. So those signs, the little indications that may take place, the scent that the person smelled for 2 days, those aren't taken seriously. I think, we need to find a way to de-emphasize maybe the gigantic end all be all 2-week-long news coverage and talk about educating at the smaller sort of spectrum first. I don't know, just a comment.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks. Michael O'Leary, Portland, Oregon. In emphasis on this, it also brought to mind your last presentation, sir. I was like, is there even a natural gas detector I can buy for my apartment? Well, it turns out I Googled it. I can get 2 for $99 at Home Depot right now. They'll be home when I get there. And as we think about all this infrastructure and talk that your organization has set up to promote 811 about enhancing public awareness with the system and infrastructure, I'm not seeing it on the residential side, right? The user side. And obviously, you know, you could do a regulation or put it in a building code, or you can worry about local governments to do it. But you could also lead on the national level and put it up there as a priority and a responsible best corporate practice to be promoting the idea that residential communities have this. Why rely on people to be A, at home, B, awake, C, aware of what it smells like and what they're supposed to do, all this chain, right, of human possible failure, when you could just plug something into the wall and have it automatically reporting and letting people know the right thing to do. I think we're missing a key opportunity to move forward with basic technology at a fundamentally really big weak link. So that's my comment forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So technology certainly does play a role, you know, kind of like a fire alarm detector, sort of a feel to it. As far as pipeline operators getting an automatic indication inside of each home, that might be a bit of a challenge that we would certainly have to talk more about from an intrusive nature and how that would work in authorities to be able to pull that off. But your key point is well taken about how do we leverage technology to be smarter about this earlier to detect some of those signs.
Hi, Linda Farrell, Pipeline Safety Coalition. I have 2 questions, one for you, Dr. Murray. In the damage trends slide that you showed, I noticed that West Virginia and Pennsylvania were 2 states, and other regions incorporated a larger number of states. I can't remember how many. So how does the number of states correlate? How is that calculated into your data? So Pennsylvania and West Virginia accounted for 13%, as opposed to, I think, in the northern region, or let's say the western region, there were more states with a higher percentage. So how did you factor in that? And the second part of that question is, how do you also correlate, or do you also correlate the current rate of growth by state in that damage trends?
Thank
and
you for
then
your
my
questions.
next question would be for Don, and because I'll let you ruminate on this one. But we hear from a lot of we hear from the public when they're faced with new construction that they're saying to pipeline operators, okay, you're going to be putting this into this rural area. We have a very small firehouse, very minimally equipped. And if you're going to put this new line in, we would like to see you provide the extra or additional equipment that we might need with this extra capacity, extra pipeline running through our community. And so far, operators have said, we don't have to do that. So I would like your input on that. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll take my questions first. So the way we did the actual damage prevention tool, we looked at all 50 states, and we looked at those threats that I had listed on the slide, some of the factors that went into it. We did not include the rate of growth as one of the factors into the slide. And we scored each one of those factors for that state. Then we looked across all the states to see who had the highest score. That's the order in which they appeared in that bar chart. Then we looked at, out of the top 15 states, How many were in the western region? 5. So that represented X% of the top 15. In West Virginia and Pennsylvania, those 2 states probably showed up there due to either, if I recall correctly, issues with their damage prevention enforcement authority. Either it didn't exist or it was problematic. So that certainly would rank them higher in the tool itself to show up on the top 15. So because the eastern region, and it's just because we classified them by region, it's not that those 2 states are less important than the other states in the top 15. It's just for internal purposes, it will help us to understand from a resource standpoint. The western region is going to need some extra support because there's 5 states that are out of those 15 states that we really need to focus some attention based on how we modeled, how we analyze our data for that tool. So it's not as important for the purposes of our outreach, the percentage, the 15%, 13%, as it is just recognizing the 15 states in general that requires some attention and focus. So we're working equally in those 15 states, broken out by regions, so that we can be more targeted and use our dedicated resources to make sure that we pay attention to some of the emerging issues in each one of those states. I hope that helps. It has not been in the first year of us running that tool, but it's certainly something we can go back and look at. Our goal is to rerun our model each year to help really help us with planning out our efforts. So that's something that we can take back into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, let me just rephrase your question. I think what you stated was somebody put a pipeline through a community where their volunteer fire department in that particular area doesn't have the sufficient equipment to handle that new emergency that's developed. And they went to the company that put in the pipeline and said, can you buy us some trucks?
Actually, I'll rephrase a little bit because this is a situation, and we're seeing it repeatedly, where landowners are negotiating with a company who is planning a project in a community. And the landowners are saying, we would like to see as part of the negotiations for this easement that you take a look at our fire department. We're very small, we're very rural, or we're large, but we're not large enough to accommodate for that extra risk that is potentially being posed to our community. And so perhaps in our negotiations of easements, we would like you to agree to upgrade our equipment at our fire department so that we will be up to speed on, or up to the level of response that we should be if something goes bad.
Well, a couple of things there. It sounds to me like you have the upper hand. You have the leverage. You're negotiating easements. Do you want an easement? This is what we would like on our side. I don't think you're being overly egregious by asking for equipment to handle that particular.
Landowners don't think they're being overly egregious either, but in the case of let's say an interstate line that's cited by FERC, and you've got the capability of an operator to use eminent domain, the leverage that you're referring to is not necessarily.
Yeah, now the tide is tipped, hasn't it? The tide is tipped the other way now, yeah.
The leverage is not as heavy as it might seem. So I was wondering what your input would be from the work that you've done in how to approach the operator in a case like that.
Well, I guess the fire departments in my town have better negotiating tactics because it seems when they go to the authority or the party that's putting in some type of a system, they'll negotiate to get what they need, because both people want to be, I think, good partners, good players here. And maybe it's 50-50. Maybe you don't buy the whole piece of equipment, but we'll meet you halfway. So you go to your tax base and you let them know, and I'm sure they're happy to hear that.
And so would becoming one of the states that participates in your program be advantageous in that case?
You could contact the Pennsylvania inspectors in your state who could go to their PUC, Public Utility Corporation, and maybe they could work with you on that negotiating. It makes good common sense to me. I don't live in Pennsylvania, so I don't use my name. How's that?
All right. Well, thank you very much for another rich discussion. Let's thank our panelists one more time. I think this was a great discussion and ideas and input that we can certainly incorporate. It's our lunch hour now, so we will break for roughly about an hour or so. We're planning to return at, I believe, 15 after 1 Central Time for our next session.